In this video, I'm going to give you a brief review of trigonometry. So for physics, we're going to be using a lot of right triangle trigonometry because we've already discussed the fact that some things are vectors, right, versus scalars. And vectors have a direction, and we draw them with arrows, right? So in order to sort of quantify vectors in physics, we have to use trigonometry. So I'm not a math teacher, but really I'm just going to teach you the very basics that you need to know about right triangles, right? So if I draw a right triangle is a triangle that has one angle that is 90 degrees, which we represent with a little box, right? And it has two other angles, this angle and this angle. So I'm just going to pick this one, and typically we use the symbol theta as sort of a generic symbol for an angle. And the triangle will have three sides then. There is the side that is opposite from the angle. There is the side that is adjacent to the angle. And then there is this side, which is what we call the hypotenuse, right? And there's three different trig functions that we use in order to resolve the relationship of these angles to these sides here. Now, another thing you need to know about triangles is that all of their angles add up to 180 degrees, so we might have to use that as well. So the three trig functions we need to know are tangent. So the tangent of an angle is equal to the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. The sine of an angle is equal to the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse, and then we have the cosine, which is equal to the adjacent over, the cosine of theta, is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And so I kind of wrote them out of order, but people remember them by remembering so, ca, toa. Right? Now, if I were to try and solve for, say, an angle, then what I would actually use to punch into my calculator would be using like the tan to the -1 button. So like if I was trying to figure out what this angle was, I would just take opposite over adjacent, and then I would use tan to the -1 here, and that would help me solve for theta. Okay, so hopefully this is all review to you, and the first sheet I just have you practice this, just make sure everybody's got it. Okay. The only other thing that we need to know about right triangle trigonometry that we'll have to use is the Pythagorean theorem. So that is that, and let me just write it in terms of these, that O squared, the opposite squared, plus the adjacent squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared. Right? So that's just a real rough, basic overview of the right triangle trigonometry you'll need to use in physics.